Thank you for joining us for this Repertoire podcast. And now, your host, Scott Adams.
Hey guys, I am happy to be with Jennifer Murphy from Siemens today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about their restructuring and kind of what it means to distribution, what it means to you, and how it will help your customers ultimately. So going to be a good conversation. Let me give you a little background on Jennifer. Jennifer has been on the distribution and manufacturing side. Currently, she is the Senior Vice President and Head of Laboratory Solutions and National Strategic Accounts for Siemens. And so she's the perfect person to talk to today of this restructuring and exactly what it means to the distribution rep, which is you guys. So here we go with a conversation with Jennifer Murphy. Hey, Jennifer, good to have you on the podcast today. I'm looking forward to the conversation around you guys restructuring and kind of what that means to distribution. But, first and foremost, how are you? Where are you in the world today? And what's been going on with you?
Great. Thank you, Scott. It's wonderful to be here. I'm actually at home for once. I joke and say, people ask me where I live. I'm like, I live in Wisconsin, but I also live at Marriott's. So there's that. I think you know that feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
So I am at home. In the back, you can see it blurred out. There is a Peloton. Kind of a quick story. We're building a lake house, so we're in a rental, and it's quite a journey with that we're on here. But that's what you do when you're close to retirement. You build lake homes and hope all the kids come home to it. So that's exactly the journey that we're in here in Wisconsin.
I love it. And I know you're usually a Teams person, and I've got you on Zoom today, so I apologize for that. Normally
no worries,
you have your,
all good.
your Siemens background.
I'm learning.
So we're going to get into the restructuring and kind of some of that and how you've come to Siemens here in the last couple of months or last 6 months or so. But before we start with that, I'd like you to just share a little bit of your background because it's super unique in being in lab, being in distribution, being on the manufacturing side. And so you kind of tie all that in and bring a different perspective maybe to this role at Siemens.
Absolutely. So I feel like my entire career has actually had a tie to distribution. I mean, first, my background in distribution actually started when I was a lab director and the chair of an Amerinet Lab Alliance. And the core of that
there's a blast from the past.
Right? I mean, and the core of that Lab Alliance was centered around, right, a prime relationship with distribution. And through that assignment, I actually saw the power of what distribution can do for a group of small critical access hospitals. I mean, obviously, as a lab director and lab professional, I had seen what the power of distribution was for me running a small critical access hospital. But certainly through that alliance, grouping that and seeing the power of what it could do there was pretty powerful. And then honestly, through my relationships in this particular case with Fisher Healthcare, as the distributor there, was when I made the leap. It was kind of through those relationships that I had built and learning more about the other side, if you will. In 2006 is when I actually joined Thermo Fisher Scientific as an account manager for Fisher Healthcare. And that was actually my first of 3 roles with Fisher, the other 2 being a health system executive and a district sales manager. And in fact, I think I was once nominated for Repertoire's district or distribution rep of the year.
Oh,
so
really?
You might need to fact check me. We'd have to go back into your archives. I don't know. It's in my memory. So either I wished it or it actually happened. I have no idea. But after 7 years, the kind of the rest of my journey with Thermo is about 16 years worth. And it does now center around distribution on what I, say the manufacturing side. So after 7 years with Fisher Healthcare, I moved to Thermo Fisher's immunodiagnostics division as an area director. And that was just after Thermo Fisher purchased Phadia. And that's the allergy and autoimmune business that now still sits with Thermo Fisher. So not only did that role give me experience in leading leaders from a development perspective, but also in integrating a business into Thermo Fisher. And from a distribution perspective, since they only work direct, and especially on the autoimmune side, building out a distribution strategy. Because of course I knew distribution, being a Thermo person that was brought into that business, could kind of draw some opportunities and where it made sense to use distribution there. And then the next several years of my career were actually spent on the life sciences side. So Thermo Fisher had acquired Life Technologies, small acquisition. And part of my development really was to step outside my comfort zone, frankly, in diagnostics and get into life sciences and learn a little bit about that continuum, I guess, of the patient journey. I then led the chemicals division, which was a very interesting world where I led the Americas for commercial. Well, the chemicals division at Thermo Fisher had once been integrated with Fisher Scientific, the research arm
I didn't
of,
realize that actually.
yeah. So at the time that I went there, they had actually disbanded, and made their own division because they had done some acquisitions that had a direct model. So almost like a reverse distribution strategy and how we worked to say, okay, now let's bring some of those direct, acquisitions into distribution, and also let's look to where it makes sense to go to have some of those products go direct as well. So it just kind of almost a reverse distribution strategy, which you wouldn't run into in a career very often, and unless you had that situation. After that role, then that was kind of my foray into the kind of the big leagues of life sciences, where I ran the West and Canada for biosciences. That was during COVID. But interesting assignment there was also then to work with Fisher Scientific. And again, similarly to the immunodiagnostics experience, think about where it made sense for the biosciences, because massive amount of SKUs, huge business. I mean, even just in the West and Canada, I was running about $2 billion of business, right?
Wow.
So where does it make sense for us to work with the channel, with being Fisher Scientific? And honestly, and leveraging them even during COVID, right? I worked even with Fisher Healthcare during COVID, as we worked to just kind of deploy as much as we could, to the people that needed it. And then, and the last stint I had with Thermo Fisher before I left was back to distribution, and I was the VP of sales for the Central US for Fisher Scientific. So kind of a roundabout moment where, came in at distribution and left left a distribution role. So I left Thermo Fisher to actually get experience in a small company. I knew not that I had done everything I could with Thermo Fisher, but certainly wanted to get experience in a smaller business, leading a broader commercial team, meaning, like truly lead marketing, commercial, sales, scientific affairs, and then honestly be in the room with acquisitions. And like you are in middle market, private equity, which businesses should we go buy? What does that all look like?
Yeah.
Not a ton of experience in distribution in that role, but that role actually did allow for me to realize that I wanted to go back home to diagnostics. I really did miss a lot of the resources I had in large companies. So I did make the purposeful decision to leave the middle market, my private equity space after a couple of years. And then in the world of leaders follow leaders, and Michelle Zwickel, who was a leader at that I'd followed at Thermo Fisher, she had a role open here at Siemens Healthineers. So a little over a year and a half or so ago is when I came to Siemens Healthineers to lead the strategic accounts team. And honestly, I haven't ever looked back. So I welcomed this opportunity. I sit on the North America leadership team for diagnostics, and my team is the National Reference Lab team, the health systems, the GPO, government, and distribution. And with each one of those verticals, the VPs that run it, we've really built out this team all within the last year and a half. So I think the other part of your question was kind of the unique perspectives that I bring to this role.
Yeah.
And, it's really tied to several things. And I'd say it's really my experience both in, laboratory, both in practice and in business, right? And my experience in diagnostics and in life sciences in both large companies and small companies. And also my experience in working both in diagnostic companies and building out distribution strategies and manufacturing companies, right? So I think it's kind of a full circle moment when you can pull all of that together. And honestly, in this role, I'm able to pull on all of those levers almost every day, to be honest.
I can just tell, listening to you talk, your commitment to distribution, which obviously Repertoire magazine has been committed to them for 31 years. And
Yes.
they're just so vital to our industry and to the caregivers and to the health systems. And it's nice to talk with someone, and also someone who's, and I think everybody in our industry should have to do this, who's been on multiple sides of the aisle. I spent my first 11 years on the manufacturing side, and then did a couple of years with distribution before coming here. And now it's fun to kind of be that in that middle and get to work with both distribution and manufacturing to bring you guys together on a regular basis. So it is a unique perspective, and it does, I think, help give folks the ability to know what the other side's going through.
But it helps, I think, too, in addition to that, it helps our organization. A lot of my job is educating the my internal colleagues, finance, whomever, right? What is the power of distribution, internally? Without that experience, as an executive leader with my colleagues, sometimes that can get lost.
Yeah, for sure. I hear it all the time. It's like, can you help us explain upstream in our organization why we have distribution and the value they bring? Let's talk a little bit about the new structure and kind of how you guys got there, what it means specifically to distribution reps kind of on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I'm a bottom line upfront communicator. So I'll start by saying, the restructure that we implemented in the beginning of our fiscal year 25, which is October 1st of 2025, absolutely benefits the distributor reps. And that's not on accident, right? I mean, it absolutely streamlines their connections across our product lines, and provides them a single point of contact for all things distribution. So let me explain the restructure and why I say that and why people should believe that, frankly. The former org actually had, separate field sales teams for both our core lab solutions, which is the chemistry and immunoassay sides of the business, and our specialty products, which would be our coag, hematology, and plasma protein and Immulite. This actually meant that as a distributor rep, they had to consider which products their customers wanted, look at a roster, and contact the appropriate rep. Okay, is this, like, for example, you could think Immulite, Immulite is kind of, immunoassay. Would that actually sit with a core lab or not? Even I had to kind of remind myself at the beginning, even a laboratorian. So if it was confusing-ish to me, certainly confusing to a distributor rep who's dealing with a gazillion manufacturing reps every single day. So what we actually did with the reorg is we went to a regional model where our field account executives and our business development executives, the difference really just being, I'd just say kind of hunters and farmers, right? We've got those that are really, making sure that accounts are covered every single day. But both of these, both hunters and farmers, are covering all product lines. Okay. So, and they are supported by specialists as needed, but their job is the single point of contact for all product lines. But most important to the distributor reps is under my org, under my distribution team led by Noam Pollock, is we actually implemented field distribution specialists. And this was not in place prior to me coming on board. There's one per area, so East, Central, and West, and they support all things distribution. They'll do the quotes, they'll do opportunity management, they'll be the liaison between distributor and the team, making sure they're working together. They'll get in the field as they need to. And their goal is to help shorten that sales cycle and close the deal sooner. And that's just a really good example, honestly, Scott, of Noam coming to me when I first came on board and me saying, hey, what are the pain points? And he's like, it takes too long to quote. Okay, well, why does it take too long to quote? Well, distributor quote, I mean, I knew this coming in here. Distributors have different ways of quoting. And so that's a field account executive that they're going to get hung up on that. So let's centralize quoting under distribution. Done. And so again, getting back to that bottom line up front, as a distributor rep, you have one person to call. That's your field distribution specialist.
Yeah.
And then you've got your account executive kind of based on that account that you can work then directly with in working those specific deals by account.
Yeah, you kind of touched on what my next question was going to be, which is you guys have obviously made a big commitment here to this new structure. What are some kind of tangible things that will benefit the distribution rep from this, as well as their customer?
Yeah, so I mean, it's actually a cool question. I mean, I think I'm going to actually kind of pivot on this and just talk about some of the programs,
Yeah.
right,
Yep.
that we run, because look, I think it's fun, right, to sell and build programs through distribution. And if you're not having fun at work, then
What are you
shame
doing?
on us, right? Shame on
Yep.
us as the leaders. I
Yep.
think leading in this, we're at work too long to not have a bit of fun. But we are really committed to creating programs that encourage that engagement, right, for the distributor partners, but also bring solutions for our customers. So one example, and I'm going to get back to that Emulite.
Yep.
Emulite, we ran this Emulite complement campaign. And not to get too technical, but the Emulite instrument has a place in every single lab as a complement to whatever chemistry platform. It doesn't have to be Siemens. Most often it won't be Siemens. And the assays here are gap fillers for, again, whatever brand ChemIA that lab is running. So this means any distributor rep can walk into any lab that they have and they could talk about the Emulite. So what we did is we actually educated the distributors on what tests the Emulite runs compared to the common diagnostic test. So like a grid, if you will. Here's kind of where the gaps lie. And ran this campaign. And then the distributors went out, found some targets, brought them to the Siemens team. Siemens team distributor rep went in, had conversations with the customer. To the customer, they're like, oh, wow, like I could bring some of these, these tests are maybe getting sent out today. I could bring these in-house.
Right.
Because my volumes support it. Having that consultative conversation we know is super important. And in a lot of cases, we had a lot of great success by, again, bringing that solution. And again, we were celebrating the successes. It was effective. It was fun, benefited the distributor rep, benefited our team on the manufacturing side, and most importantly, benefited the customer and the patients they served, because they probably got results a lot faster than they would have before.
I know in talking with you and the team, you guys have a go-to-market strategy now that adapts to the customer versus here's what you can buy, how you can buy it. How does that flow into when you guys are bringing a product to market, what types of products you're bringing to market, that type of stuff, so that you are adapting with the customer as the customer is telling the distributor and then ultimately telling you guys how they want to do business?
Yeah. So another really great question, because to know me is to know I'm always waving the flag of we need to work from the customer backwards. It's like anytime we start to get internally focused on this is good for Siemens, I'm like, hang tight, what's good for the customer? Let's
Right.
work backwards. But
It's
we
amazing
do
how often that gets lost, in the upstream side of our business.
and sometimes it's like we need the Post-it note. You can do them now electronically, so that's good. You can put them anywhere on any electronics, but we almost need it for ourselves, even when we believe it, right? But we do strive, right, to take that customer first approach by having the scalable solution, right? First of all, you got to have the ability to meet the needs of the customer. And when you think about our solution from point of care all the way through first-in-class automation for mega labs, I mean, we have it all. So that's number one. But I think most exciting to me is that how we build in our voice of customer into our innovation work. And this is just something, Siemens is kind of an engineering based company, right? Like first, which is great. And then innovation just kind of naturally does kind of come from that. But especially in the world that I lead in strategic accounts, we're really lucky to have access to some of the best voices in laboratory medicine. And we don't take that lightly. We utilize the feedback to feed our R&D team on what our assay pipeline development should look like our clinical disease state focus, and even like AI enabled diagnostics, right? Like they're hot topics, but how do we make them more tangible and applicable, right, to the business that we're running? So an example that this kind of came to fruition, because it's like, well, what does this look like in practice, right? is our troponin prognostic claim, right? So troponin obviously being the assay, right? That is the indicator if you go in with chest pain. Did you have a heart attack or myocardial infarction? Yes or no? Now we are the only vendor that has a prognostic claim that basically says, we can now aid in identifying patients that are at risk of cardiac events and death within 1 year, right, of presenting to the ED with these signs and symptoms. So I never thought I'd see this in my laboratory career. But obviously I wasn't involved in the puts and the takes that it took to get here, because that stuff takes a long time. But no doubt this was, somebody in the rooms and our customers having conversations around, hey, if we worked on this is what could happen with this troponin assay based on some of this research that has been done. So again, now if you go into the ER, it's not just, rule out MI, right? Rule out a heart attack. Okay, I didn't have a heart attack. But now that can go to your physician and there can be a conversation to say, but you're at risk. You could have an event, right? And we're in a world right now where, whether we like it or not, there's some predictive medicine that's going on, right? So this is pretty exciting for us that we're the only one. It's billboard worthy, as I tell my team.
Yeah.
Like, we want to scream this from the rooftops and make sure that our health systems and our largest customers are running this particular test. But most important to me is the fact that, this came right from conversations, right, with our customers.
So that hits so home with me right now. I lost a good friend last week.
Last week.
Last
I'm
week.
so sorry.
Yeah, the funeral was Sunday. He was a wonderful human being, and it was a heart issue. Is that something they would just test for in a normal physical year, or it's when you go into the ER because you're having a heart issue?
Yeah, so as of now, it tends to be done in the ED, right? But there's a lot of work that's being done. Could it be part of a screening? I think it's new, and I'd hate to be the one that, right? I think that that's all part of the journey that we're on. It's newly launched with this claim, and I'd hate to kind of suppose where it would be potentially run, but there'd be no doubt if he went in and had some symptoms, right, that if this particular test were run, then along with probably other signs and symptoms and a conversation with that cardiologist,
could have seen it coming,
there could have been something coming, right? And to your point, it can be the most seemingly healthy people. We know them, right? They're the ones that are the most active, that are maybe doing all the right things, that that are the ones taken way too soon. So I'm so sorry for your loss.
It was tough. One of the guys that spoke, and I'll get off of this, it just so fresh in my mind, but his thing was, and you just said people go so fat or too soon. And his line was, people say life is short, but it's actually life is fast. And just how fast life goes. And it just hits you kind of,
it does.
Like it isn't short, it's just fast. Those things are coming at you so fast. So get back, the next question that I had for you is, you guys, I know you're committed to distribution. How do you free up your ultimate end user customer so that they can choose the distributor that they want, that they know and trust, that they've known for years? What are you guys doing to kind of help enable that?
Yeah. That's like the thing that we're solving for every single day. I think on both sides and on all sides, right? And I think for me, this actually starts before and that's the collective we of the distributor and in our case, the Siemens team stand in front of that customer. And what I mean by that is it actually starts with our partnership and the distributors and how we build the agreements, how there's access to products, right? Like, I think we do our best, and this is, sometimes tougher to do, but we do our best to not limit markets, not limit product access when we work with our distributors. So, it's a little bit, that is the behind the scenes, but in my world, in my mind, that's where it starts. Because the second you start saying, well, you can only sell this particular instrument in this particular market, then you start to, it starts to get confusing for the distributor rep. And then
Yeah.
therefore, maybe they're not talking about it, and that's then therefore not freeing up that end user, right? So I mean, I think there's like this, my brain works in algorithms. And so there's if this happens, then that happens, and then that happens, it almost works backwards in this case.
Yeah.
But customer facing, I think it's just important to have alignment from the beginning. So, end user customers have a primary distributor partnership. And, again, it's working from the customer backwards. So if that, when that customer has a partnership with that distributor and they're interested in making a chemistry decision, point of care decision, whatever that looks like, then that's the opportunity, right? The distributor rep then comes to us and says, hey, let's have a conversation. Because I say this to my team all the time. Distributor rep's job is crazy. They're inch deep, mile wide, a gazillion SKUs. I said, your job is, like the opposite, right? You're a mile deep. You've got all the technical knowledge. And so to me, we've got to get that connection happening very early. And then there's no confusion to the customer about that partnership.
Right.
And then it's really fun, right? This is where you can play good cop, bad cop, with the customer as a team to say, hey, let's have this conversation. Where are they at with this decision? And okay, well, I went in and I got this. Now, can you go uncover this? True consultative selling, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's a really cool opportunity. But to me, back to long-winded way for me to say, build the right program internally, and then allow for the customer to, when they're making that decision, declare their interests, and then build that partnership early in the sales cycle.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time with folks about how much distribution reps have going on. And until you've been in their shoes, you can't, as a manufacturer sales rep, to your point, you're so focused on I can't get them to call me back, or I can't get, do you realize how much they have coming at them on a daily basis?
Exactly.
From every angle, from their corporate office, from 20 other manufacturer reps that are calling them about something, to back orders, to customers calling them, to
it was my favorite thing about the job back when I did it, honestly, because you could pull all these different levers.
Yep.
You had to look at it that way. Otherwise, you were just paralyzed by the chaos, right? You either looked at it that you were able to pull all the different levers in your business, or you looked at it that you had to, and then those were the ones that weren't successful.
Right.
Right. It was either a great opportunity, or you're like, what the heck is this chaos?
Two closing questions for you. One, with all of the aspects in the different career paths that you've been down, what still motivates you every day? And then in closing, what do you want the distribution reps to know from listening to this podcast? What do you want them to leave with?
Yeah. So, I think the cool thing that what drew me into this industry and the aspects that motivate me each day really haven't changed. I'm pretty simple. I think when it comes to this, those things are really the focus on the patient, and the ability to impact people's career development. But what has changed is the weighting of the two. I just have to admit that over my career. And again, while my focus is always on the patient and that continues to be front and center, I will have to admit that what keeps me truly motivated to do what I do every day is my deep passion for developing leaders. Because I absolutely love to help people be the best version of themselves. I love leading large teams, developing leaders to become VPs. And then I know that's all trickling down to that impact on the patient, right? So it's not that changes kind of that, but as you move up,
yeah,
the air gets a lot thinner, and you've got to make sure that you're building that tree of people that are truly impacting that patient. I'm a big culture person, right? So building a high performing team, but also being part of a high performing team is highly motivating for me, both personally and professionally. And nothing's just more rewarding than seeing people develop and succeed to be the best version of themselves. Those are the best days. So that's the first question. And what to take away from this is, I'm going to go back and say, work from the customer backwards, every day, all day, which means, again, back to, I think the question prior to this one was, the how to work with, manufacturer and distributor together is, really early on, just have those conversations. And I think the second piece to that is look what you can do with your career, I never once thought that, even at Thermo, and again, while so much of this is weighted towards my career at Thermo, obviously we work with all the distributors, and I have to say that every single time I'm in the room with all the distributors, because we have healthy partnerships with all. My passion for distribution is really, really strong. And I think be super excited about the work that you're doing, because you're representing so much, every single day when you're out there. And I just want to thank you, Scott, because throughout all of this, you and Repertoire magazine have just been such a constant for the audience that you serve. And it's awesome. I think it's been really, really cool to run back into you. I think through my return into diagnostics. And so it's been a really fun full circle moment for me.
I appreciate that. It was interesting at the McKesson meeting last week or week before. I had so many reps come up to me and just thank me for the magazine. And, in the world of digital, it's interesting how much they still love, 85% of our readers still want the print book every month.
Don't stop that. I think I said this to you at one of the meetings we were at, that I still maintain that sometimes what lands on your doorstep is the stuff that gets the most attention. Everyone's still taking off on a flight and needs something, right, to pick up and read. And I think that there's power in that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not leaving it. It's 31 years and running. So one thing I would share back, because I'm sure all of your people are going to listen to this as well, is, these distributors have been going through a lot lately, and there's a lot of new reps, and there's no better time to gain a relationship with someone for life than when they're getting started.
That's true.
Reach out to those baby reps and get them educated, and teach them to be not afraid to go into the lab and have conversations.
No, that's a great point. I still remember, and I think a lot of it is too, with my move that I mentioned at the beginning about why the Peloton's in the background. I'm actually driving some of the roads that I used to drive when I was an account executive, right?
Yeah,
in my early days. And it's super fun. I'm going by these hospitals, and they're smaller hospitals. And I say to my husband, I'm like, that hospital sent us on a trip, right? Like that. These smaller places, because there's such opportunity there. Yeah. And I think that's a really, really great point. So I wish everybody the best of success, and I'm always here. So reach out if there's ever anything that anybody needs.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me. I really appreciate you, and best of luck to you and to the rest of the team, and anything we can do to help you guys. We are always here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you so much for being here with me on that podcast. Jennifer's great. What a cool career, being able to go through all those different alleys to get to where she is today. And I love their commitment to distribution at Siemens. Her and her team have come in, and they're absolutely going to stick with the folks that bring them to the dance. So I highly encourage you to get to know your local Siemens folks and get them in the car with you. Go take them to accounts and go close some business. Have a wonderful day, and thanks again for being here with us on the podcast.